You might have seen some crazy headlines flying around, maybe on social media, saying things like Yellowstone Park is closed or the supervolcano is about to erupt. It sounds pretty scary, right? Well, today we're going to get to the bottom of this and find out what's really going on. So has Yellowstone Park actually closed its gates for good? Let's get the big question out of the way first. The short and simple answer is no. Yellowstone National Park is not closed. It's still open, and millions of people are enjoying its amazing geysers, beautiful hot springs, and incredible wildlife, just like they do every year. So if you have a trip planned, you can breathe a big sigh of relief. But that leads to the next question. Why are all these rumors flying around? Well, a lot of it has to do with something that happens at Yellowstone all the time: earthquakes. And recently, there has been some interesting earthquake activity that got a lot of people talking. Now, when you think of Yellowstone, you probably picture Old Faithful shooting water high into the air, or maybe a big bison walking calmly down the road. But underneath all that beauty, there's a whole lot of action going on. Yellowstone is basically a giant active volcano. Imagine a huge underground chamber filled with hot, molten rock called magma. That's what's heating up all those geysers and hot springs. Because this whole area is so geologically active, it's constantly moving and shifting. Think of it like a big pot of water simmering on a stove. You see little bubbles and ripples on the surface, right? Earthquakes in Yellowstone are kind of like that. They're the little rumbles and shakes that tell us the stove underneath is still on. So, how many earthquakes are we talking about? On an average year, Yellowstone experiences between 1,000 and 3,000 earthquakes. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? It works out to several earthquakes every single day. But here's the key. Most of them are so small that you would never ever feel them. Scientists have special instruments called seismographs that are super sensitive and can detect these tiny tremors. But if you were standing right on top of one, you probably wouldn't notice a thing. Every now and then, though, the park experiences what's called an earthquake swarm. This is when a whole bunch of earthquakes happen in the same area over a short period of time, like days or even weeks. It's like the ground is having a little burst of energy. Recently, one of these swarms happened, and that's what sparked a lot of the online chatter. Scientists at the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, the people whose job it is to watch the volcano 24/7, saw this swarm happening. They tracked hundreds of small quakes in a specific area. But here's the important part. This is completely normal for Yellowstone. Earthquake swarms happen pretty regularly here. In fact, about 50% of all the seismic activity in Yellowstone comes in the form of these swarms. So if it's normal, why does everyone get so worked up? It's because Yellowstone isn't just any volcano. It's a supervolcano. That means in the very, very distant past, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years ago, it has had eruptions that were thousands of times more powerful than any volcano we've seen in our lifetimes. The idea of that happening again is, understandably, a bit frightening. People worry that a big swarm of earthquakes might be a sign that the supervolcano is waking up and getting ready for a massive eruption. But here's what the scientists say. An earthquake swarm by itself is not a reliable sign of an impending eruption. For a super-eruption to be on the horizon, they would need to see a whole bunch of other signs happening at the same time. What kind of signs are we talking about? Well, first they'd see the ground itself start to bulge upwards like a cake rising in the oven. This would be happening over a huge area and much faster than the normal slow ground deformation they see now. They would also detect major changes in the geysers and hot springs. Maybe their temperatures would spike dramatically, or their chemical makeup would change. And the earthquakes would be getting much stronger and closer to the surface. A swarm of tiny quakes is one thing, but a series of strong, shallow earthquakes would be a much bigger red flag. Right now, scientists are not seeing any of those other warning signs. The ground is moving a little, as it always does, but nothing alarming. The geysers are behaving normally. And the recent earthquake swarm was just that. A swarm of small quakes, which has since calmed down. It was interesting for the scientists to study, but it was never a signal of impending doom. So the park never had a reason to close. The only times Yellowstone typically closes sections of the park are for things we can see and predict, like heavy snow in the winter that makes roads impassable, or sometimes for road construction or wildlife management. They would never close the park based on rumors or a normal earthquake swarm. Any decision like that would be based on clear scientific evidence of a real threat, and we are nowhere near that. It's a great example of how information can get twisted online. Someone sees a report about an earthquake swarm, they remember that Yellowstone is a supervolcano, and they jump to the scariest possible conclusion. Then they share it, someone else shares it, and before you know it, a rumor is spreading like wildfire that the park is closed and disaster is imminent. That's why it's so important to get your information from trusted sources. The United States Geological Survey, USGS, and the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory have websites with real-time data and updates. If anything were truly happening, they would be the first to tell us, and they would do it in a calm, factual way. So, to wrap it all up, no, Yellowstone is not closed. Yes, it had a recent earthquake swarm, but this is a perfectly normal and common event for one of the most geologically active places on Earth. The supervolcano is not showing any signs of an imminent eruption. You can sleep soundly tonight. Yellowstone remains a magical and safe place to visit. Thanks so much for watching and for letting us clear up the confusion. It's always smart to be curious and ask questions, but it's even smarter to check the facts. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into science. See you in the next video.